All right, let's start with this one. So we want to define a function that does the calculation. I just call it cal. So we have num1, num2, and num3. It's quite easy, right? We can just print num1 plus num2 plus num3. And then if we want to calc something, I 1, 2, 3, they should print 6. Now, one thing in function, what you want to do is not only print it, but return the value to the caller. So that's different from printing to the screen. The difference is that printing is like showing something to the screen so people can read it, but return the value to the caller is like hand the value back to your direct manager. Let's make another version of this. So instead of calculate this, we return this. Right? So you can have a return argument in function to return this to the caller. So in this case, we can say result equals to cal 1 to 3. And then result will be 6. Now try this one when you do result equal to call cal 1 to 3 and see what you get. So the result you will get is none because this one doesn't have a return. And for function that doesn't have a return, it will return the default is none. We can prove this by re-execute this one. By the way, it's recommended that when you do function definition, make it different. But in this case, I just make it the same because this just is a demo. And we can calculate that, and then it still prints that out, but it doesn't return the value to result. It returns none, but it's not the value that we need. So if we print that, we'll get none. So that's the difference between print and return. And in most cases, when you define functions, you should use return so that you can capture the result. It's like that chain, you can pass the result to the next line of code so that you can do further processing. With print, it just prints things to that display. It doesn't really pass the value somewhere. Okay, we move to the next topic of function, which is scope. So when we are dealing with variables, where's concept? Okay, when we are dealing with variables, we are dealing with a bunch of scopes. So the top, think about this is like boxes. The top layer boxes is sorry, is what we know as the global scope. So when we do dir without any arguments into that, we are looking at this scope. But what happened is that there are different, like list 1, or this one is tuple 1, this is number 3 plus 1j, things like that. And there could be a math module as well. So all this is some type of smaller boxes or containers inside that. And for a variable like a, if it's inside the top level, then it's in the global scope. Otherwise, if it exists under this grid function, then it only exists inside that scope. Okay, so if it's in the top level, what we know is that's a global scope. And if it lives inside the function, that's a local scope. So inside the function, when you try to do something about A, it will try to find whether there's an A in this local scope. If not, it will reach out to the global scope and find the A there. So there's a resolution order there, which means when you look up for something, look for nearby environment. If it's not, you escalate that to the upper level and search for that. So what we're going to show you is the global and local scope. So first of all, what's defined inside that function will be a local variable, which means it's only local to the function. So in this case, we have x equal to 10. That's outside the function, that's a global variable. And also have an x of 5, that's the defined inside the function, that's a local scope. And we can print this by executing that function because this one just returns the local variable. And then also look at the outside function, x, what that is. So if we execute that, you can see x inside the function is 5. Sorry, there's some please outside. Um, yeah, x inside the function is 5, outside the function is 10. So this one is the local variable, and outside that is the global variable. So what happened is sometimes we want to define inside the function uh, something that should also be global. So the way we do it is use the global keyword. So we can declare something should be global, and then we get set x to 5. So in this case, set x to 5 will set this x to 5. While in this case, x outside is the global, inside is the local. There are two identities in terms of a variable. So in this case, because we declare x is global, so there's only one x throughout this piece of code. That's just that one x outside the function. So we say x inside the function is 5, outside is also 5, because this one just sets the global variable x into 5. Okay, so that's all you need to know for now about scope. And there's actually another keyword that's non-local. So what I want you to do, Google keyword non-local and compare it with global. Okay, so non-local is something similar to global that changes the scope of a variable. But what you need to know is to find out like to which level it changes and how it's different from global. Okay, that's all for functions, and in the next video we're going to look at some OOP terminologies, and see you there.